The following video will demonstrate how to log in and out of apps for added security. This is important when using the iPad with students. After viewing this video, you should be able to understand how to move apps into folders as well as log out of apps when necessary. You may want to hold your iPad while viewing the video on a computer so that you can follow along and practice with the instructions provided to you. Alright teachers, this will be a quick video to kind of go over some security features as far as when might be a good idea to log out of an app. Because in the Apple ecosystem, and if you got an iPhone or even an Android, you're probably used to this. But if not, once you log into an app, you stay logged into that app until you log out for the most part. For instance, this matters a lot on those days when you might allow the students to use your iPad, which I would encourage you to do. An app like GarageBand, where you can go in and record some audio and have the kids kind of maybe do an audio summary of a book they've read, or an app such as iMovie, where they could get together and put a video together of maybe a unit you're working on, or a video scavenger hunt. All kind of ideas that we'll be looking at together this year. But my point is you don't want to be so scared that you don't allow the kids to use the iPad, but you also don't want to take for granted the fact that they are kids and their activity needs to be monitored, and some precautions probably need to be put in place. For instance, I usually have my mail application at the bottom of my dock here, right beside Safari and settings. So usually my iPad layout looks just like that, simply because I get several emails a day, as we all do, and I want access to that quickly. However, I'm constantly logged into that application. It's not worth my time to really go back and forth each day and delete my email accounts out of that application just because I don't want people to possibly access it. So one thing you could do is, on the day you know students are going to be working with it, maybe bury that icon somewhere. Maybe hide it for a little while so that it's not there on the main screen. You would just simply hold it down. It's really easy to do. You'll see them start kind of dancing and shaking for you there, and then they can then be moved. So I might hide the app under something that is not related to it at all, like it's mail. Well, I might put it under remotes or something. And so it's not 100% foolproof, but it is one option you've got to maybe keep the kids from instantly seeing that and thinking, oh wow, I'm going to go in and act like Mr. Varnon or whoever and send an email to my principal that says something stupid. I won't start naming examples because it could get bad. But my point is, that would be one precaution, so that when you give the iPad to the students, maybe put the app they're going to use directly on that main screen, so that if they're not on that screen, like if they scroll over and you could say, why are you on that one? You're supposed to be here. Okay, so that's one thing, is put the app you want the students to use directly on to the iPad dock or on the first screen, and then bury the app like Mail or some of those that you don't want the students to mess with. Apps like, for the time being, apps like Facebook and your Twitter accounts won't work at school. They're still blocked. So you don't have to worry about really logging out of those when the kids use them, because you can't get to them anyway. But for extra security, if you want to, it's not going to hurt. Let's go to the App Store, for instance. Let's look at that one. If I go to the App Store, I'm logged in by default, which means there's a chance that a child could get in here and go mess with updates and do things like that. Now, true, they would need to know your password, okay? They would need to, and I'll show you, for instance, okay? If I'm going to go buy an app, or even with a free one, let's say a free one, okay? When I hit free and go to install, it's going to verify that I want that application. See, I have to sign in. So they would need to know my password. However, here's the trick about the App Store. And this is the part you're going to want to listen to carefully. Let's say you went in and bought an app during break at, say, 9:30 in the morning. and you have a class coming in at 9:35 or 9:40, and you've just recently signed in to the App Store. Apple holds that information for a few minutes. So if I go through, and I'll show you an example here. If I go through and I go ahead and punch in my password and I download this app, now my password will be blurred out for you there. But if I go in and I punch in my password and download this app, it's going to go ahead and download. All right. But watch what happens next time. Okay, and this again, after about 10 minutes, is going to fall down. But what would happen if you gave this app, if you gave the iPad to a student right after you had purchased an app and they're working on it and they go in? Then the next time I go to download a free, I'll just use one here. I'm not going to do a paid one because I don't want to buy one right now. But the next time I go to an app and hit free, if it's been within a recent few minutes, it's not going to ask me for my password again. Okay? Now, this is nothing to be terrified of, but we need to handle it well. Normally, that's fine. But if students are working with your iPad, your best option is to scroll down to the bottom of the App Store. And this would be before you gave it to them. Scroll down to the bottom of the App Store where it says Apple ID, punch that, and then sign out. Because at that point, the student can't go in, and you won't have to worry about them downloading an app using your information. Now again, think of that. I know that's a little confusing, but here's to summarize it. It works like this. If you download an app within the App Store, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, it's not going to ask for your password again. Now, Apple's doing that as a convenience to where that way, if you're wanting to download multiple apps, you can continue to go through there. However, if you were to time that just right accidentally and you hand your iPad over to a group of students to work and you've recently been in the App Store and you purchased something, then they could possibly go in and download apps, even ones that cost, okay? So when you give the students your iPad, log out of apps like the App Store. Log out of apps like Learnist. Log out of those that a kid could get on and pose as you. Maybe it's a little inconvenient, but I think overall the added creativity and the added stuff that a student can do or a group of students can do with the iPad in the classroom is worth it. It's just, I think we should take time to say, okay, how can I take a couple of extra steps to maybe ensure a little more security? So that can be done by hiding apps such as my Mail app, which I'm going to go ahead and pull back to my main dock. It could be done through the way of logging out of apps, okay? If you need additional information, you can just kind of email me and ask any questions. But every app will pretty much, every app that requires you to sign in is also going to have a way to log out of it. They're all a little different, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that feature through the settings icon. And most of those look like a little tool. So you could open up Facebook and go to settings and log out. You could open up Twitter and go to settings and log out. It takes just a few seconds, and it takes just a few seconds to log back in. But I would encourage you to just use extra precaution and security and highly monitor the students when they're using the iPad, okay? You know your students. You know which ones you can trust and which ones can lead and which ones to watch closely. The iPad is a great tool in the classroom, but you have to use a little common sense and extra security measures when the students are using it, okay? So if you have any questions or if any of this seems confusing, please just let me know and I'll be glad to help you further.